Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. The Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, made an announcement in conjunction with the British Columbia guy. I'll be honest with you. Not one reporter in the room asked him a question about the announcement. Not a single question came from this owned and operated far left mainstream media. We know that they get more money from the government than any of the environmental investments that Stephen Guilbeault does, and which makes me wonder why he would make the announcement. Or is he trying to hide something in the announcement that he doesn't want them to ask, or is the announcement just a cover to give them an excuse to be in the room with him so he can give his opinions on things? I don't know. I know that there's a lot of interesting answers that he gave to the questions. They covered basically three subjects on the carbon tax, the environmental technology, and of course the election in Toronto. Before I get into it, I would encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, share this channel with your friends. All right, so there's, like I said, essentially three periods of questions, and I'm going to let you listen to them in segments, and then I'll give you my 2 cents worth.
How are the Liberals going to be able to save themselves in the next election, given the trajectory after the by-election in Toronto and what that says about the prospects in other parts of the country?
I'm not a political analyst expert, but I know enough about politics that one should be careful by drawing direct links between a by-election and a general election. So people are mad at their leaders, understandably.
So if you understand that people are mad at their leaders, why aren't you doing something to make them feel better? Why do you keep announcing dental work for people that are... Like, all of the announcements that they made do not help everybody. They help only specific groups of people, primarily single mothers and seniors. Now, other people, jaded people probably, or people less savvy in these kinds of things, might argue that that's purchasing votes. I do think that it's a bit blatant in its application. It doesn't help any of the working class that they claim to help. Then they just keep repeating it, right? There's no middle class assistance in any of these things. And I mean, look at what you're trying to determine. You say to me that you're giving free dental work to people under 18, which they expanded it to people under 18 today, and seniors over 75. And we're giving out free childcare or $10 a day childcare to all of these working mothers. Where in your mind do you think that the people any of these people are working for free? The dentists are not cheap. We know that. If they were cheap, people would go there, but they're not cheap. So taxpayers' dollars are going towards purchasing your votes. Taxpayers' dollars are going on people's dental work, and taxpayers' dollars are going on children's daycare centers. Should we not be looking at maybe alternative methods? Should we not be considering that there are other options to solve these issues? But should we most importantly not be realizing that perhaps working on the small fringe elements is not the place to begin solving the problems for the Canadians as a whole? No wonder people are upset with their leaders. And if you know that, why aren't you doing more than just say, oh, it's all a conspiracy? All right, then the carbon tax answers were just wild.
Majority of provinces are against the carbon tax. And is this something that is going to be under consideration for your government to roll it back and hit pause all across Canada?
So we won't do that. So we will continue moving ahead. The price tag is only going to continue to go up.
So there you have. You can hear him say that he has no intention of stopping the carbon tax. He has no intention of solving the problems that are the carbon tax obviously brings into people's pockets. He still wants to insist that, the 8 out of 10 garbage that they've been saying. And now every time you hear from him, first it was 100 economists. Now it's up to 400 economists and Nobel laureates. The far left, in their ridiculous concept that they should appeal to somebody who already has a job that was given to them. Many of those people, those economists, come out and have said already that they were paid to make those answers. The Parliamentary Budgetary Office is a building filled with economists, and they don't agree with you at all. So when you start talking about all of these economists, why are you ignoring the economists that are actually employed by your government, that are actually employed by the Canadian people? Because he doesn't want to solve the problem. He is ideologically opposed to anything other than his own ideas. And anybody who disagrees with him, anybody who disagrees with the one-track mind that he possesses, is just going to simply be dismissed and ignored, just like they've been doing now for nearly 10 years. And if you wonder what I'm basing that on, I'm about to show you a couple of answers that will completely support my position.
Export Development Canada just approved $500 million in financing for the Cedar LNG project in BC. Wondering what you make of that, considering your government is in the process of developing a policy to phase out public financing for domestic fossil fuel projects.
Well, as you rightly point out, so we have eliminated direct federal government subsidies to fossil fuels last year with the help of our colleague, the NDP in House of Commons. We are working on public financing. We said we would have a framework in place by the end of the year. We don't have it yet. You will recall that when we presented the framework for federal subsidies, there were a few exceptions. One of them was investment by Indigenous nations in different kinds of projects, which could include fossil fuel projects.
What does Shell's positive FID on carbon capture, coming right after the investment tax credit finally became legislation, say about the potential for carbon capture investment in Canada? And do you expect more announcements to be made in the immediate future?
So if you look at our last greenhouse gas inventory that was published in April, you'll see that in 2022, because we're always 2 years behind in terms of the inventory, 7 million tons of carbon were sequestered in 2022.
So you can't pause the carbon tax except if you're going to get votes from Nova Scotia, and yet you're allowing people who are in the First Nations to invest in oil and gas and LNG projects. They are apparently allowed to do it, despite the fact that the rest of us aren't allowed to do it. Now, why would that happen to be the situation? Why would they say to you that it's okay if you're a First Nation to do it, but everybody else is not allowed? Does that sound like an ideological approach to you? Or does that sound like there's some logic in there? And if you say to me, well, that's just because they want to have the First Nations vote, they don't want to alienate people in Nova Scotia because they want their vote, I will concur with you that sounds like a very reasonable answer. What I want you to see is how it doesn't, all of a sudden, these hardcore carbon approach that the government takes a back seat to the vote. And that, to me, indicates two things. One, that it's a dishonesty, and two, it's just an ideology. Then he heard from companies that are capturing carbon in up to 7 million tons in 2022. So 7 million tons of carbon were captured. Why are we not just investing in newer and more adamant methods of carbon capture? Now, for those of you that may not be aware, what happens is they capture the carbon and they put it in an airtight drum, and they bury the drum in a place. Some places it's under the ocean. Some places they're using a lot of empty mines to do it. They just take this carbon, put it in a can, and then put it back in the ground where it came from. I'm assuming that the premise is that eventually the cans will deteriorate, release the carbon into the ground. The plants will chew it up, and it's the cycle of life kind of thing. However, if we know that this exists, then why would you stop giving them taxpayer dollars to improve that technology? And why would you tell yourself that charging me more at the gas pump is going to make carbon capture less effective, right? If you want me to believe that you're after the carbon because the carbon tax is killing the economy and destroying the middle class, and all of these things are sacrifices that we're supposed to be making, then why are we not taking this existent technology of carbon capture, and why is that not on everybody's lips? Why are we not driving to the goal line with this very adamant and very exciting news from the fossil fuel industry, saying how they have managed to capture all of this carbon? Why are we not giving them money so that they can take that technology and expand it to the point where we don't have to worry about how much gas we put in the car? We don't have to worry about any of that because all of that carbon is being captured. So there's a lot of inconsistency in the position of MP Guilbeault, the Liberal Party, and essentially anyone who is so fanatical that they don't want to look at any other solution except for the ones that they have decided will be the one. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you next time.